This is a special winter storm newscast for you. The switch over to freezing rain and sleet in Metro Louisville started 1 hour ago. We've been getting reports from downtown to eastern Jefferson County to LaGrange. Sidewalks to some roads are starting to ice over.
And Metro Louisville, much of Kentucky and under an ice storm warning. But right now you can see right there a fire that's off of Melwood Avenue.
That's right. This is a scene. This is breaking news happening right now. They're just wrapping it up in the Clifton neighborhood, not far from downtown. There's been heavy smoke as several fire crews are at the intersection of Melwood and Stevenson Avenue. We're getting more information from Louisville Fire. We'll be having a live report from our Tom Lally on the scene in just a moment.
Yeah, and take a look at this right now from earlier this morning. The salt trucks in southern Indiana out clearing the roads as Indiana saw the brunt of the winter storm. Later on, we're going to have more from Bobby McSwine. She is in southern Indiana.
So our forecast is still playing out as expected. We are starting early with our coverage right here for you this afternoon as Metro Louisville is now seeing the freezing rain and sleet. No major power outages reported here at the moment. And hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for this hour of news. I'm Doug Proffitt.
And I'm Haley Minogue. The First Alert Storm Team has been telling us all week that the changeover would take a while. So let's get the latest on the timing from meteorologist Ben Pine. Ben?
Yeah, guys, very colorful radar across the area. 4 different types of precip right now. We've got rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. And this is kind of a precursor, an idea of what you will get later on today as that freezing line moves slowly to the south. We are now at freezing in Louisville, and that's why we have recently had that switch over to a mix of freezing raindrops and also some sleet. We've got a solid shield of some sleet coming down. Roads are a mess in Indiana. It has been an icy mess all morning long throughout southern Indiana and areas also north of 64 up I-71 in Kentucky as well. You guys have had the ice around Carrollton over to LaGrange, Oldham County earlier than Louisville as well. Again, the temperature is just so important to watch through the afternoon. 32 in Louisville, still 1 degree above freezing in Shepherdsville, so the road's still good right around these locations. But you go just a little bit north of the river, you're running into not only sleet, but also some snowfall. The cameras around Scottsburg showing some snowflakes mixing in. These areas up here around Highway 50 in Indiana, North Vernon, over towards Seymour and Bedford, you guys could see anywhere from maybe 3, 4, 5 inches of snowfall since you've now switched over to all snow. Now, farther off to the south, temperature still just above freezing. We're just talking liquid at the moment. But again, this is all going to shift southward, so that's why we still have that ice storm warning. This is just the beginning. Look at this and what's on the way to the southwest. There's still a wintry mix all the way down into Texas and Arkansas. We've got a long way to go, and that's why we still have that ice storm warning that goes until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Generally, we can expect up to about a 1/4 inch of ice. There could be some pockets of up to a 1/2 inch, which could cause some scattered power outages later today, some tree limb damage, and of course, slick, hazardous, dangerous driving conditions out on the roadways. Our total snow accumulations anywhere from about 1 to 4 inches higher as you go north, much lighter, just a dusting off to the south. We'll continue to have some snow showers around into tomorrow morning. Here's the wintry mix that continues through the late afternoon, evening hours, and watch the snow machine kick in overnight early tomorrow morning with dropping temperatures down to the upper teens and lower 20s. What's on the ground is going to stay there tomorrow with our temperatures only topping out in the 20s for our Friday afternoon. There's a look at some of that snow coming down around Scottsburg, Indiana. So once again, it is a mixed bag of wintry precipitation with this winter storm. Let's check out some of the road conditions now.
Ben, thank you. And the road temperatures, thankfully, have been pretty close to freezing or above freezing across the metro. The last time I looked, they were generally between that 31 and 35 degree range, and we haven't had too many accidents, thankfully. Downtown, not too long ago, there was one incident near Spaghetti Junction, but that has since been cleared. That was a non-injury accident. Also, another incident being reported in southern Indiana there near I-265 near exits 6A and 6B, so where 265 meets I-65. As a reminder, Metro Louisville, the police department, will not be responding to any non-injury accidents unless they're in a dangerous situation or the car is immobile. This is where we had those couple of cars that were off to the side of the road not too long ago, but those have since moved on. And you can also see there the roads are still wet. There's water being splashed up. So that's the good news, but we still have to be careful on those roadways. Looking outside over Scottsburg, Ben just showed you this. Traffic there moving fairly okay, but we're going to see those road conditions continue to deteriorate as temperatures continue to fall overnight. So overnight, particularly into tomorrow morning, is when those roads are going to be particularly hazardous. So you want to be careful if you're out there driving on the roadways. We're going to see that freezing rain, sleet, and snow continuing late. Any wet, untreated roads you have to particularly be careful in, and please drive slower. Your car might have four-wheel drive, but that does not make you invincible to the ice and the snow that's on the roadways. And as we're talking about the roadways, we'll send it out to our First Alert Storm Team Beast with Reed Yaden, who's keeping an eye on conditions out on the roads. Reed, where are you?
Okay, we're on Story Avenue now, getting ready to work our way on to 64. Now, what we're seeing in the downtown area is quite a bit of slush gathering on the streets at the present time. Let me get a little better view of the roadway. You see it's just slushy. It's more of a sleet that we're getting down than anything here. Rain and sleet mixed together. Temperatures that we're seeing in the downtown area holding right at 32. And Alden, you nailed it with the traffic. Traffic very light on the interstates right now. We're going to work our way onto the interstate. What we're going to do is kind of bear down on ramps and overpasses because they are getting slippery already. So that's what we have going on. We're going to be here with you in the Beast for the duration. You're welcome to come along for the ride. We've got a couple of empty seats and plenty of heat in here, so just hang with us through the afternoon. Reed Yaden live from the Beast near downtown Louisville. WHAS 11 on your side.
All right, Reed, one of the trickiest stop intersections in town.
Oh, yeah,
as
absolutely.
He's moving out of the Phoenix Hill neighborhood there. Now, we want to go back to the fire off Clifton, off Melwood Avenue, right in the Clifton neighborhood. It's a breaking story we're getting new details about now.
So we're going to go right to Tom Lally. He is on the scene. And Tom, what is the latest that you can tell us?
Yeah, we just found out they got called here around 1:50, which is about the same time that freezing rain began. And I'm actually here with Major Bobby Cooper, who can give us an update. What can you tell us so far?
Cooper with Louisville Fire Department. So at 1:50 p.m., our crews were dispatched by Metro Safe on multiple reports of a structure fire in the 100 block of Stevens Avenue. It's very close to Interstate 64. So a lot of motorists were calling it in because there was a large column of smoke that was clearly visible. One of those motorists actually happened to be an off-duty LFD firefighter who called it in. He got off the interstate, was on the scene very quickly to what ultimately was the structure fire. What we have, again, it's the 100 block of Stevens Avenue, and it's an individual building, so it's a single structure, but it carries 3 different addresses. One of the addresses furthest to the east is a residence, and then you have a blacksmith, metalworking shop that's in the center, and then the structure or the business that's further to the west is a woodworking shop. The majority of the fire was coming from the west structure, and that's where the fire originated in the woodworking shop. We've been able to determine that already. So crews arrived on the scene within 2 minutes. Again, we got a quick jump on it, on scene in 2 minutes, which was a tremendous response time, and that's partially due to the fact that it was called in so quickly. Again, the occupants who were inside, we had 3 adults and 1 juvenile. The juvenile and the adults were in the residence to the east. The off-duty firefighter was able to remove them and get them out of the structure. They got out on their own safely. No injuries to report to civilians or to firefighters at this point in time. So our crews arrived on scene. They quickly initiated search and rescue operations, determined that there were no rescues to be made, that all the occupants were out of the dwelling. So then we began to try to confine and extinguish the fire. Again, it's a single building with 3 separate addresses, so it's cut up. Access was a little bit difficult. We ended up hitting a second alarm on it, so it ended up being a 2-alarm fire. Ultimately, we ended up having 8 fire engines and 4 fire trucks, so 12 firefighting apparatus. We had several staff, several chief staff and command staff, who of course were on duty today, and they all responded. So ultimately, we ended up having nearly 60 firefighters on scene. They gained control of the fire at 2:45. They called control, so a little less than an hour to gain control of the fire. In conditions like this, we rely on support from several different metro agencies. So we have Public Works who's on scene. They're supporting us with salt in a sand truck because clearly we have icy conditions, which make it dangerous for our vehicles and our firefighters. LG&E's been on scene to isolate the power, make sure all the power is shut off, as well as with the power lines close by. We've also had EMS on scene to treat any firefighters, and LMPD, of course, is helping with traffic control. Again, we have EMS on scene, but what we do in conditions like this is we also call for what's called a rehab truck. So our rehab truck comes out, it monitors the condition of our firefighters to make sure that they're staying safe, their vitals. We worry about things like frostbite in conditions like this, again, not just slips and falls. So that rehab bus is on scene. If need be, we can call other agencies like TARC to come out and provide a TARC bus for our firefighters to get some shelter from the conditions, get some temporary relief. Arson investigators have been requested and they are on scene. They've began to conduct a preliminary investigation. I emphasize that there's been no cause determined at this time. They want to do a thorough investigation, make sure that they cover all aspects. However, with that being said, the owner of the woodworking shop, the main fire building where the fire appears to have originated, he says that he did have a space heater going. We're not sure if it was a propane or kerosene space heater, but he says it was a fuel space heater. And so that's a place where we may start. So again, in conditions like this, we understand that people are going to try to be staying warm. We may have some power outages. That wasn't the case here, but we had an individual trying to stay warm. And it could have possibly been started because of that space heater. So,
all right, thank you. And we'll get right back. We'll toss it back to you, Doug, and we'll ask more questions here.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. Good that nobody was hurt there. They were rescued, 3 adults and 1 juvenile there in the Clifton neighborhood. Now we have, as that was happening, the freezing rain and the sleet was starting to change over. We have more coverage on the ice storm here in the Louisville Metro. Grace McKenna has been following those updates all morning long and right into the afternoon.
Yeah, Grace, what is the latest and how is Metro Louisville responding so far to this storm?
Oh, Haley, Doug, this is exactly what we've sort of been waiting on all morning, right? For that rain to transition over into the freezing rain. I want to give you a look here from Bardstown Road where we're starting to see a bit of that ice accumulation. So on things like here with this mulch, you're starting to see some of those little pellets of ice collect. Thankfully, it isn't collecting too much, getting too slick just yet on the sidewalks. But if you take a look down here, you can kind of see where my boot is scraping a little bit. It is getting a little bit slick here. So this is definitely that time of day where people want to stay off the roads, because if it's happening on these sidewalks, we're going to eventually get to that point where it happens to those roads that people are driving on. Right now, people seem to not be having too much of an issue, but we know, of course, as the temperatures drop and as things freeze more, that is what's going to happen a little later on. These are going to get even more slick than they are right now. Haley, Doug, back to you.
Grace, thank you very much. You heard the governor earlier this afternoon. He said the worst power outages right now are in western Kentucky as the storm was in that part of the state. But we also want to go south of Louisville and check on things in E-Town, how they're preparing for the upcoming icy precipitation.
Yeah, Doug, let's go ahead and check in with Isaiah Kim Martinez. Isaiah, what can you show us so far further south?
Well, Haley, Doug, that's pretty much still a wait and see process here in Elizabethtown. When it comes to treating roads, it's still regular rain. We're still waiting on that freezing rain, which is being pushed off a little further into this afternoon, early evening. What you're looking at here right now is pretty much a process of getting restocked. We've actually seen crews come in and the salt has actually gotten wet, so it's kind of clumped together, essentially becoming useless at that point. So we've seen a lot of salt trucks here in Hardin County come through and get restocked. As you can see, some last minute work being done right now, but we're actually told in the next 20 minutes or so, crews will actually be sent home to get some rest for a little bit as they prepare to be on call for those hours later into the night. So they'll actually be waiting to hear from supervisors to tell them when roads are ready to be treated as we wait again for that freezing rain to come down south here in E-Town. We're also going to be hearing a little later from Elizabethtown officials as well. Pretty much everyone has been pushing that app there, the apps that they have for updates for Elizabethtown and Hardin County, Instagram, Facebook, and of course our app as well. We'll hear from them in the next 30 minutes. For now, I'm live here in Hardin County. Isaiah Kim Martinez, WHAS 11 on your side.